You like that, don't you? Good evening. We are officially calling to order the special town budget meeting for 2019. My name's Pat Christofferson. I'm the Township Clerk Treasurer. This is my duty this evening is to call the meeting to order, which has already been done, and to also help you select a moderator to walk us through the ins and outs of this very unique feature to township government. Before we do that, though, I just want to let everybody know that the purpose of tonight's meeting is to present to you, the citizens of White Bear Township, the budget and proposed tax levy for 2020, and then to have you, the voters, approve the 2020 proposed tax levy, as well as the recommend a budget to the town board, who is in attendance this evening. There are 30 packets at the front of the room where you sign in. The agenda is green, the presentation materials are white, and the budget summary is in yellow. Those present tonight include Scott McCune, Steve Ruzek, Ed Prunone, Megan Kavanaugh will be our secretary this evening, taking minutes. Tom Redessel is our town planner. Lynette Ollinger is our finance specialist. Dale Reed is our public works director. They are all in attendance for this meeting this evening. If you haven't already done so, please sign in at the front of the room. And just as a reference, we will be broadcasting on cable this meeting this evening. Just as further reference, the microphones that you see here on either side of the room, when you choose to speak or want to speak to the board, I'll hand that to you. It is not a broadcast to make you louder. It is specifically for those viewing the meeting at home. So, if you have any questions or comments, come on up to the microphone when we get the meeting going here. So, with all that being said, at this time, we would take volunteers for a moderator this evening. Got one? This is Bob Kermis, who is former town board chair and member for how many years, Bob?
10.
10 very long years. I believe I need to take a motion from the floor accepting Bob Kermis volunteering as our evening's moderator. Can I get a motion to that effect? Got a motion? Get a second on that?
A second.
Got a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None being heard. I will turn this over to Bob. Thanks, Bob. Yep.
Thank you all. Good seeing everybody here tonight. As Patrick said, the purpose of this meeting is for the annual budget and tax levy proposals. To do that, we have an agenda. If you don't have one, as Pat said, there's copies over on the table here. So the first item has been taken care of. We do have a moderator. I see we don't have our town attorney here tonight, so.
That is noticeably absent.
Well, we'll use Robert's Rules of Order as the rules to govern the meeting. Without a parliamentarian, it's going to be a little rough around the edges if I have to try to do any interpreting of the rules. But we'll follow those rules as best we can. All right, the agenda is in front of you. We need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion from the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second to approve the agenda as submitted?
Second.
Is there any discussion, changes to the agenda? All right, I'll call the question. Those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is to approve the December 11, 2018 special town budget meeting minutes. Unfortunately, they are not available right now, and the file system has swallowed them up someplace, I understand. So we're in the town's in the process of getting those minutes relocated, published, and put onto the website, right?
Yeah, the video of last week's meeting is on our website. We have our secretary take minutes from that video if our former secretary does not get those minutes to us.
Okay, so then the next item, item 6 on the budget, on the agenda is to present the 2020 proposed budget and property tax levy. And for that, we'll turn the table over to Tom Kelly, the Town Finance Officer. And I would ask if anyone has questions or comments for Tom during or at the end of his talk and presentation, please use the mics as Pat was describing. And please identify yourself and your address for the record, please.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening, everybody. I wasn't going to tell a joke, but the staff really wanted one, so I got one of my lame jokes as usual. Why is money called dough? Because we all need it. Told you it was lame. All right. The real reason we're here tonight is to help understand the town's budget and how our property tax works, and then to establish the property tax and recommend to the town board a budget for 2020. To help do that, I thought it'd be good to review kind of the 2019 budget. And for 2019, the current year, we do have a property tax levy of $3,403,055. That was a 5.466% increase over the 18 levy. For about the fifth straight year, we did not have a levy to pay off any debt, so we had no debt levy. And so we actually ended up with an operating levy from our general fund of $3,123,761. And the difference there is what is called fiscal disparities, which is a revenue sharing on commercial industrial property, which for us actually decreased in 19 by $2,532. Down to $279,294. Our current budget is at $4,231,356. It was a balanced budget, meaning our revenues do equal our expenditures. So we're not using any reserves to fund our operations. That budget was a 4.65% increase. And as usual, our public safety area is our largest portion of the budget. And unfortunately, property taxes account for over 80% of our revenues for the budget. We did receive the award for our annual financial report, the CAFR. It was the 22nd year in a row that we received that award from the National GFOA, and we're one of 140 government entities in Minnesota that received that award. We also received the budget award for our budget document. It's the 18th time we've received that award, and we're one of 20 government agencies in Minnesota that received that award. Finally, we did receive the award for our popular annual financial report. You should have received that in your utility bill last quarter, which just summarizes our financial report. And it's the 4th time we've received that award, and we're one of 9 government entities in Minnesota to receive, or one of 16 to receive that award, and we're only one of 9 governments to receive all 3 awards in the state. So our 2020 budget, as part of the process, our budget calendar, we actually start our budget process in March at the annual town meeting, where residents do vote on the preliminary levy. That levy that they vote on at that meeting is our worst case scenario. Once that levy is voted on and approved, we can lower the levy as we go through our budget process, but we cannot go above whatever is approved at that March meeting. Then we actually start working with the town board and town staff on the budget in July. We start getting our numbers from other entities that we either contract with for services or maybe get some of their funding from us. We start getting those numbers in. And then we have to certify a preliminary levy to the county in September, and that was done on September 16th this year. And that is the number or the levy that is actually used in the tax notices that you would have just received here in November. And again, that number is, again, our worst case scenario as of September. And again, we can lower the levy, which we have done, but we can't go above whatever we certify in that September. We also work on our 10-year CIP, and we get, so that can be approved by the town board at their next meeting, which is December 16th. The first year of the 10-year CIP is then incorporated into our 2020 budget in this case. We then hold different budget workshops with the town board between August and November to come up to the budget and levy that is going to be presented here tonight. And again, you as residents are going to be asked to approve the final tax levy and then make a recommendation on the budget to the town board. We have to have that final levy certified to the county by the end of December, and then our fiscal year begins January 1st. The proposed budget was developed with the town's mission in mind, which is to provide White Bear Township residents, businesses, and visitors with reliable, high-quality municipal services while serving as open and responsible stewards of the public trust. And so as we developed the budget, we tried to keep that in mind. The 2020 budget as a whole, counting all funds, is just over $17 million. The biggest change is in our capital improvements, which is here, and we've actually got less expenditures in capital improvements in our utility funds, so that has dropped, where in the past our utility funds last year made up 42% of our total budget. For 2020, they'll make up 34% of that. And the big change there, as I said, is in capital improvements, which is why our capital improvement funds, because we've got a larger street project plan for 2020, increased from 28% of the budget to 33% of the budget. The other funds, our general fund, our internal service funds, and our debt service funds pretty much stayed the same, with just changing a percentage or two. If you look at it by function or classifications, again, as in the past, our capital outlay changed a little bit, and the big change was in other services and charges, which is some of our contracts with our like our police, fire, those sort of things. That increased from 34% to 37% of the budget. And again, the decrease was in capital outlay, which is this box, because we've got fewer projects planned in the water and sewer funds. As I said, the total funds, we've got just over a $17 million budget for all funds, which is about a 5.5% decrease from 2019. But again, that's all in capital items, as like improvements to our wells, our towers, and that sort of thing. Personnel services for 2020 is increasing 4.9%. What's really driving that is we have a new position planned in the budget to help improve efficiencies in our public works, code enforcement, and planning areas. It will be an administrative type position to help them so they can be out in the field and do more of the technical work instead of getting tied down in some of the administrative stuff. We also have 2 intern positions, one in Public Works that will work on helping us with getting our utilities into our GIS system so that we can track them better electronically. And then one in administration, again, their position will really be scanning in documents so that all of our paper records that we have to keep will be electronic, and we can find them easier electronically, and we can make them available on our website. So if people, instead of having to call up the office and having stuff mailed to them or emailed to them, they can look it up electronically themselves. As I said, capital outlay has really decreased. It decreased about 13%, and the biggest part where it decreased was in our enterprises funds. In 19, we painted the water tower on Hammond Road. That was over $1 million project, so we don't have that in 2020. And then in 2019, we had our last lift station rehabbed, and so seeing that was our last one, we don't have one in 2020. So that's where those items really help decrease our capital outlay. We do have a 2020 street improvement project planned. It's the second year of our 10-year pavement management, and the streets that we're looking at doing are in the southeast side of the city, or on the southeast side of the lake. We do have some water system improvements planned, and again, they're really to help with some efficiencies. They will help with some putting in chemicals, where right now Public Works has to manually monitor the chemicals and so forth, and this will make it more electronic wise, and some improvements to our wells for pumping and that sort of thing. So we do have some water improvements still planned. They're just not as big as the 2019 improvements. Those will generally affect your utility rates. We do review the utility rates annually. The rates are intended to cover 100% of the operations and then 75% of depreciation. The rates right now will cover 100% of the operations, but we're still not to that 75% on depreciation in all of the funds yet. And then, as I said, we've got about $718,000 in water improvements planned and $160,000 in sewer improvements planned for 2020. And then stormwater projects, we have about $635,000 of improvements planned there. As I said, that will affect rates. I'm sure this is a little hard for the audience to see, but these are our 2020 rates as approved by the board. They'll take effect with the billing that'll go out in March. Basically, the water base rate went up 50 cents. There's no change to the first 2 tiers of our water volume rates. And then the third tier actually increased a whole 2 cents, and then 25 cents on our tier 4. When it comes to sewer, our base rate basically went up $1, and then the volume rate also went up $1. So it went from $4 to $5. And then on our stormwater fund, which is the one fund that we're really trying to get caught up on, and because of more and more mandates from the state, we have more and more projects. It seems like That is going up $1.50 from $21 a quarter to $22.50 a quarter. Debt service, as I said, we're in the second year of a 10-year pavement management plan. We did issue debt in 2019. However, for 2020, we'll only have an interest payment on that bond. And because of that, our debt service budgets are actually decreasing almost 9% from 2019. Because of that 2019 interest payment, though, we are going to have a debt levy, which will be our first debt levy since 2015, and it's in the amount of $65,392. As I said, we do have about a $3 million road project plan for 2020, and we'll have to issue debt to pay for that and finance that. As of the end of 2019, we've got $1,210,000 in debt outstanding, which is very low for a community of our size. Unfortunately, with the street projects, we'll be issuing a lot more debt. That leaves us with the general fund, which is the real reason the majority of you are here, because that does drive our property tax levy. The general fund does account for the general day-to-day operations of the township, and right now it is proposed to increase about 6%. As I said, the main revenue source is property taxes, and again, it is a balanced budget, meaning revenues and expenditures equal one another, and we won't be using any reserves. The budget itself is proposed at $4,488,213, and you can see from this chart, these charts comparing 19 to 20, the departments have stayed pretty much the same. There's not much change to them. Public safety did go up 1%, public works 2%, and so of course recreation and general government then went down 1% and 2%. So we do have more money going into public safety, more money going into road maintenance, snow plowing, and that sort of thing. As I said, the increase is about 6%, or $256,857 from last year. Again, the biggest increase is in our public safety budget. It had a 7.42% increase, or $116,000. Our police budget, based on Ramsey County, because of equipment and increases in investigations, is going up about 3%. The fire department, because they are converting to have more full-time staff to help with response times, and then because they need a new ladder truck, their budget is actually going up over 20%. Or $60,000. So that is a big driver on our increase in our budget. Code enforcement, which is part of public safety, also went up 11.5%. And the big reason for that is that new administrative staff position. There's 25% of that person's time being charged to code enforcement. Public Works increased almost 12% to $1,208,895. 15% of the new administrative position is assigned to Public Works, and then 5% of that intern for GIS is assigned here. And then we have more money for asphalt and those sort of things to help maintain our roads. All right, My mouse died or something. General government only increased $19,515. It includes 100% of the intern, as I said, to scan our records. That'll make it more easily for staff to find the records and even the residents to find the records once we make them available online. Community development, they do have 25% of that new administrative position assigned to them. And then parks, because of the improvements planned for 2020, they actually went down 1.35% to $606,954. Get rid of that. On the revenue side, you can see there's not much change from 19 to 20. You can see the big blue area is our property taxes. And our property tax revenue in 19 actually was 81% of our revenues. It dropped all the way down to 80% for 2020, but as you can see, it's still the majority of our levy, or our revenues. General property tax, the largest revenue source, it's obvious. Right now, it's proposed to increase 5.71%. I think the notices that you received had the levy going up about 21%. So we've really reduced our budget amounts, and then as a result, our levy has gone down. The fiscal disparities revenue, we're actually going to see an increase of about almost 9% in that to $303,886, which gives us a general fund proposed levy or an operating levy of $3,293,500, which is a 5.43% increase. Now, most of you are probably here because of the property tax levy, and I'm a firm believer that we have probably the most complicated property tax system in the country. And the reason I say that is because in the spring, you would have received a notice from the county assessor who determines your market value that'll be used to calculate the next year's property taxes. The state legislature then establishes the class rates for each type of property. The class rate is then applied to your market value to get to the tax capacity for your property. Then the township and the school district and all the other taxing districts establish their property tax levy, in this case the township, which is then applied, or the total tax levy is divided by the town's total tax capacity to get our tax rate, and the tax rate is then multiplied by your individual tax capacity to determine the amount of township property taxes that you'll pay for the next year. The county, for our tax capacity, has actually increased our tax capacity by just over 7%. Here is the breakdown of it, but you can see that our tax capacity is now at just over $15,423,000. That's an increase of over $1 million over our 2019 property tax levy. Still doesn't want to work. So we'll go this way. Excuse me. This chart, you can see the tax capacity of the township has been increasing steadily since 2013. Previously, in 2008, you can see was our previous high. The 2020 rate of 15 million is the highest we've ever had. The previous in 2008 was just over 14,477,433. And I'd like to say I'm responsible for all that because even though I have nothing to do with your market value, I actually worked for the township starting in 1994, and I worked here until about 2008, and then I left and went to the city of Monticello. So you can see prior to 2008, your tax capacity or your market values were going up. I left and went to Monticello, and I came back in 2012, and lo and behold, in 2013, they started going back up again. So I'm sure it's got everything to do with me, even though I don't calculate anything with your market values. The good thing with our market values the last 2 years, as the economy had recovered in 15, 16, and 17, most of that increase was on residential property. And beginning in 18 a little bit, but then in 19 and now in 20, we're starting to see the commercial values coming back. So it's not just all being put onto the residential properties. So, as I said, our property tax levy is proposed at $3,293,500. From that, or with that, we get fiscal disparities for 2020 will be $303,886, giving us a total operating levy of $3,597,386. And then, as I said, we do have a debt levy for 2020 of $65,392, which gives us a total tax levy of $3,662,778, which is a 7.632% over our 2019. And as I said, the preliminary levy that was used in your tax notices was just under $4,151,000, which was almost a 22% increase. So we've dropped the levy considerably since then. Showing you the trend in our property taxes. Again, they were fairly flat, but the last year, as we started to do these road improvement projects and spend more on our public safety, we have seen steady increases in our property tax levies. While our property tax levy has increased steadily, our tax rate, because of the tax capacity of the town increasing, has stayed relatively flat. As you can see, it's right now it would be 21.752%, which is still lower than what it was in 2017, 16, 15, and so forth. So you really got to go back to about 2011 when our tax rate was significantly lower than what it is being proposed at right now. What that really means is if your market values had stayed flat, your taxes would stay flat. The tax rate that we are presenting tonight, we would still be the third lowest in Ramsey County, with the city of North Oaks being the lowest. They pay for a lot of their city services through an association fee instead of property taxes. And then the city of White Bear Lake is still lower than us, and they get a boatload of local government aid from the state to offset their levy, where we get $14. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. As I said, market values have been increasing. The county estimated that the median value home in the township increased to $287,000 for 2020. That is a 7.94% increase over last year. And you can see here how the market value of the median value home has increased steadily since 2014. A median value, what the median value means is that is the home that is right in the middle of everything. That means half the properties are above that value, half the properties are below that value. As I said, if your market value had not changed over the last few years since 2013, you would see a property tax from 2019 to 2020. You'd see it increase $1 or all the way up to $2 at a $300,000 home or a $135,000 home. So you could see if your market value didn't change with the tax levy and the tax rate that we have, you would not see much of an increase in your property taxes. However, I know you got notices from the county assessor that tells you your market value did change. So using this levy or our tax rate and applying the 7.9% increase that the county estimated on the median value home, those same homes, you can see they would, that $300,000 home would now be worth $331,491. The $135,000 home would be worth just over $149,000. And because of that, your township taxes on the low value home would have been about $301, is now going up to $351, or a $50 increase. And then on the high end, you're looking at going from $767 to $879, or about a $112 increase. Now, I said that our tax system is probably the most complicated. If you want to calculate out your market value and your taxes, here is the formula to do that. We're going to use MV as market value, and the first thing you need to do is take your market value and subtract 76,000 from that, then multiply it by 9% to get a reduced market value. You then take $30,400 and subtract it from that reduced market value to get the amount of market value that's going to be excluded from the property taxes. So then you take your market value, subtract out that market value exclusion to get your taxable market value. If your home is less than $500,000, you'd take that taxable market value, multiply it by 1% to get your tax capacity, and then you take your tax capacity and multiply it by the tax rate to get your property taxes that you'd pay.
It's going to be a test on this later.
Yeah.
So, as I said, it's not the easiest, but to give you an idea, here is, using those examples on the slide a couple slides ago, here is the calculations on those. And just using the high-end one, you can see it's now valued at $404,737. You take the 76,000, subtract it, you get down to 328,737. Multiply that by the 9% to get 29,586. You take the 30,400, subtract the 29,586 to get a market value exclusion of $814. You go back to your original market value of $404,737, subtract out the $814 to get down to $403,923 for your taxable market value. You multiply that then by the 1% to get a tax capacity of $4,039. You take the $4,039, multiply it by our proposed tax rate of 21.752% to get a township property tax of $879. If you want, I can always work this formula out for you for your individual property. You can either call me or drop me an email, and I'd be more than happy to do that. Because as I said, you just about need to be a math professor to calculate some of this stuff out. While the township, we know we're not the only one that is making up your property tax bill, but this is the breakdown of it currently, and this does not include the school levy that just got passed. So the school district is probably going to get a little bit bigger than what it currently is, but when the rates were calculated back in September, you can see the county made up almost 48% of your tax bill. The school district about 25 or 24.5%. The township about 20%, and then there's a bunch of miscellaneous little districts that make up about 7.6% of your property tax bill. If you take each of our departments and calculate it out on a monthly basis, and I'm using the median value home, that home that would pay about $599 in taxes. Excuse me. And you can see that home, the median value home, would pay about $17 for public safety and $14 for public works, a little more than $10 a month for general government, and $7.33 for our parks maintenance. And then that debt levy comes in at just under $1. And so they would pay $49.95 a month in township property taxes. And that's on a median value home, so half the homes are going to pay less than that and half are going to pay more than that. If you compare that $50 to maybe some other services that maybe you receive, like high-speed internet, TV, phone, that comes in at around probably $130 a month. Your wireless phone bill for a family might be around $180. Electricity for your home maybe around $100 to $90, and then gas maybe around $75 a month, and you're getting township services for about $50, which includes police, fire, code enforcement, public works, which is street maintenance, park maintenance, elections, and then some other governmental activities. Once our budget is approved and we have it finalized, we will put it out on our website and our Facebook page. You can always go there and view all of our financial documents as they are. We try to make those available as soon as we can. So in summary, we have total expenditures for all of our funds at just over $17 million. That's almost a 5.5% decrease. The general fund is proposed at $4,488,213, which is an increase of 6.7%. And then we have a total property tax levy of $3,662,778, which is an increase of 7.63%. And then, as I said, the township's tax capacity in total has increased 7.17% to just over 15,441,000, and that gives us a tax rate of 21.752%, which is an increase of 0.33% from 2019. And so with that, that kind of concludes my presentation, and I'm more than willing to take any questions you may have. And as we said before, if you could please go to the microphone, identify yourself and where you are, and I'll answer any questions. And I guess Pat will bring you the microphone. Is anybody awake still?
Stand up, state your name, sir.
Trent Bernstein, 2580 Randy Avenue. So I'm looking at your yellow page here, and I see that you're projected to end up with a surplus in 2019 of about 331,000. Was that taken into consideration to just roll it into 2020 and maybe not have the increase at all, but just take that surplus and apply it?
Well, those projections were done earlier, and we've now since gotten our December tax settlement and some more bills that weren't taken into consideration at that point. And so we're still going to end up with a little bit of a surplus, but with the town's fund balance policy or our reserve policy, we need to keep about 50% of next year's operating budget as a reserve because as the slides show you, we only the majority of our revenue is in property taxes, and we only get 2 payments in property taxes. We get one in July and one in December, and so those reserves in December have to get us through until we get our next settlement in July. So that's what we actually pay our bills off of during the course of the year. So, and the other part of that is it's always a dangerous slope to start using reserves to balance out your budget. For example, the city of Gem Lake was doing that for a number of years. They did it. Were subsidizing their levy by about 90,000, using up their reserves, and all of a sudden they ran out of reserves and they had to increase their levy not only for their normal cost of living things, but then they also had to increase it by that 90,000 because they no longer had those reserves. So it's always a tough one to use reserves to balance the budget, as opposed to if you do have excess reserves, to use them for special projects such as those road improvements, which is what the township has done in the past with the reserves when we've been over that 50%, is put the money aside so when we do the road projects and we can only assess a certain portion of it, we have the funds available to pay for the other part.
Okay, thanks, Tom. If there are no questions, then we have 2 items on the agenda that we need to take action on. The first one is to approve the 2020 property tax levy that Tom proposed, and that's proposed at $3,662,778. Again, we need a motion to approve that property tax levy. Do I hear a motion? What happens if we don't pass the motion here? We go out of business.
If we don't pass it, it defaults to the preliminary levy.
Not a good option.
So it's not a good option.
Unless, are there any questions, any issues, concerns? Otherwise, I'll call for a motion again. Okay, the motion's been made to approve the 2020 property tax levy. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? I guess following the rules, you get one more chance. Otherwise, we may be facing.
Well, they can always adopt something other than what is being proposed.
I'll ask for the last time. Is there a second to the motion? All right, that motion dies for lack of a second. Is there a motion for any other proposals for the 2020 property tax levy? It's too bad we don't have our parliamentarian here tonight. He could give us some guidance, but,
Just to be
Patrick?
clear, folks, anybody who is a resident, and is in attendance at the meeting this evening can second that motion. And as.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a basic rule. I hope there's no misunderstanding here. This is not a board meeting. This is a town meeting. As residents, you are the electors. You make the decisions at this meeting. So if there's any confusion on that point, I'll ask again, then, is there a motion to approve the 2020 property tax levy as presented by the town finance officer?
You got your initial motion, you're looking for a
Well, technically it died for lack of a second, but, do you want to make that motion again, Troy?
Unless there's a different amount that people would like to suggest, I guess I'd like to hear that, but I
Well-
would so move that we approve that property tax levy. $3,652,778.
Okay, so the motion's been made again for the same property tax levy at the same amount.
I'll second it.
Motion's been seconded to approve that property tax levy. $3,662,778. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Those in favor of approving the property tax levy, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed to approving that tax levy, say nay. That motion passes. Next item on the agenda is to recommend that the 2020 general fund budget be accepted as proposed at $4,488,213. Is there a motion? Don't be bashful. I can be patient, we can wait a long time, but is there a motion to recommend that the general fund budget as presented be adopted?
I'll make that motion.
Motion's made to recommend that the general fund budget. Is there a second? Is there a second to,
I'll second that motion.
okay, the motion's been made and seconded to adopt the 2020 general fund budget as proposed. Is there any further discussion or questions? If not, I'll call that question. Those in favor of passing that proposed budget, general fund budget, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, the next item for business tonight is to schedule a date, time, and a place for the special town budget meeting for next year. There's a recommendation to schedule that for Tuesday, December 8th, 2020, at 7 o'clock in this location, Heritage Hall. And to also specify, in the event of inclement weather or other disasters, an alternative date of Thursday, December 10th, 2020, 7 p.m. at this location, Heritage Hall. Is there a motion to approve that date, time, and place for the next budget meeting? Motion's been made. Is there a second? And motion has been seconded. There's no discussion. Those in favor of the scheduled date, time, place as Tuesday, December 8th, 2020 at 7 o'clock here, and the alternative date, Thursday, December 10th, 2020, 7 p.m. in this location. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion passes. Is there any other business? Any comments from the floor? Questions, suggestions? If not? Okay, yeah, please come to the mic, identify yourself.
Matt Ginter, South Shore Boulevard. Just for future reference, are these materials available ahead of time, prior to this meeting?
We had them out on our website. I'm gonna guess they probably were out middle of last week. Yeah, I was gonna say. Generally, we get them out a little bit sooner than that, but different things have backed us up a little bit this year.
I'm new to the process, that's why.
Yeah, we try to get the handouts, the minutes, out onto our website a week or two ahead of time, so people can view them. This year, like I say, we were a little bit delayed and didn't get them out until middle of last week. So.
Thank you.
And I do have a question. I'm Teresa Tingerthal, 1711 Whitaker. Do you know, with property taxes, has any consideration been made to the water gremlin concerns as far as possibly decreasing resale value? And is this something that can be answered here or not?
The first part of that, I don't know.
Okay.
The second part is that would be more of a question for the county assessor.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember if his number is on the back of the notice or not. It might not be.
Okay.
But if you call the county, they could transfer you over to the county assessor. Like I say, you'll get your statement of market values that are going to be used for the next year's taxes.
Okay.
You'll get that in the spring. And I think it's early spring that you get it. And you, in there'll be the information on how you can appeal your market value and that sort of information and stuff. But yeah, that'd be a question for him versus us.
Okay, thank you.
Personally, I would suggest that's a relevant question to ask, and there is a special meeting tomorrow evening at Jimmy's at 7 o'clock about water gremlin, and they've added another department to participate in that whole thing, the Department of Trade and Labor, I think it is. So any interest in attending that meeting, that might be a place to ask that question as well. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn? You want to stay here all night? Okay, no, there is a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All right, we are adjourned.